Hello everyone and welcome to a new motorcycle video. Today is Thursday the 7th of September and it's a lovely spring day, so I decided to take the motorcycle out and go for a ride. On this ride I'm going to be going out on the Gurrundah road, which is sort of going west of Goulburn and then taking a turn and going north along Cooper's Lane for about 12 minutes worth of riding in this clip. This is a course that I ran fairly recently, in fact earlier this week, and I decided to make a video to show you more of the scenery than you would have seen than anyone would have seen it in the edited running version. We're just coming into riding season again in Goulburn after a pretty long winter where I guess most people have their motorcycles put away in the garage or winterised in one way or another. Haven't been doing much riding, so it's a good idea to, if you're going to get out on your bike now, make sure that it's roadworthy. If it's been sitting in the garage or on the battery charger or under cover or something for 3 or 4 months, then before you get out and ride it, you can check that the tyres are properly inflated, that all the liquid fluid levels, brake fluid, clutch fluid if you have that, coolant if yours is liquid cooled and so on, are all at the right levels, and that everything else works reasonably well. Now in my case, I just had to have mine checked for registration, and in New South Wales that means you've got to have a safety check or a roadworthy check if your bike is more than 5 years old. And I just had that done for mine, so tyres were okay, brakes were okay, all the lights were working, that kind of thing. So it means it's roadworthy at least, and that's important, as I say, if your bike's been sitting, not being ridden very much over the winter months. It's also a good idea to check your gear and make sure your helmet's still okay, that the padding and lining inside is not deteriorating. After 3 or 4 years of wearing these things, oils and sweat in your head tends to affect the lining. Make sure it hasn't fallen off your bike somewhere and got a crack in the outer shell anywhere. Check your gloves, pants, those sort of things, so that all the gear that you put on to go riding is going to do the job that it's meant to do, which is protect you from injury. Now of course, we're all going to do our very best to ride safely, and we're all going to do our very best to be aware of the road and all the people that are on it. As other motorcyclists, we're going to have care and consideration for each other. But with all of that, and all that duty of care that we feel, whether we legally have it or not, we feel towards each other as motorcyclists, we can't predict or insulate ourselves against what other people might do. And drivers in cars, and I don't mean to disparage them because I'm a car driver as well as a motorcyclist, often are not motorcycle aware. They don't know where to look in their mirrors for motorcyclists, and they've got so many distractions going on in their cars at the moment. I've been looking at some videos about electric cars, and I see they've got this tablet type screen for the driver with all the information like speed and battery level and so on, and then there's another screen beside that the size of a small iPad, which provides all your infotainment, and many of the functions of the vehicle have got to be found through those screens. So it's easy for drivers to be distracted and not be aware of you or not be conscious of you until it's too late. So we're going to do, all of us as motorcyclists are going to do our best to stay safe, but we've also got to do our best to make sure that the people that we're riding on the roads with, that is the people in cars in particular, are paying attention to the road and are conscious of where we are. Some of that, as I mentioned in earlier videos about motorcycling, is down to us. Make sure that you're visible. Make sure you have reflective stripes or piping on your clothing. Make sure that your lights and all those sort of things are working. If you've got a fully blacked out bike, then a whole bunch of blacked out gear is probably not the best thing for you in terms of visibility. I realise it's expensive to change our gear, but if that's the case, then try and put some reflective tape on it somewhere or something like that. When you're riding behind cars, be where you are, be in the lane or in the field of vision behind the car. So think about where the rear view mirror on the car is, not just the wing mirrors but the one inside the car, because that's probably the one they're most likely to look at more than anything else. So be aware of where that is and be in that area, but also at the same time move about a little bit in your lane so that you're not always in the same position, because if you stay in the same position all the time, the driver's going to kind of get used to you being there, and they're just going to take it as a given that you're there, and maybe not always be as conscious of the fact that you are actually there. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this well, but I think you know what I mean, that you can get so used to seeing something there that it just becomes part of the furniture. So sometimes you need to move around in your lane a little bit, maybe move out towards the right, to the centre line a little bit to draw attention to yourself, or move back towards the left shoulder of the lane just a little bit, so you're changing your position, and maybe that's making the driver of the car think, what's this guy doing? What you're trying to do is get the driver to pay attention, to notice that you're there. The same thing applies if you are in front of a car. You think, well, why does that matter? Because if you've got a small bike, I've got a fairly big bike, I've got a Spyder, Can-Am Spyder. It's one of those two wheels at the front things, and it's quite big at the back, and it's got big tail lights and big indicators and that sort of stuff. But if you've got a sports bike, for example, that might only be a very small tail light and very small reflectors, and you're riding at night, then it's hard for the driver of a vehicle, if you're in front of them, it's hard for them to notice you. One little red light might easily go unnoticed when they're driving along at night, and so they could inadvertently end up too close to you. Not every car these days has adaptive cruise control. It could also mean that if they're pulling out to overtake you, that they don't, because they only see a small light, they don't necessarily go all the way as far out as they ought to give you sufficient room, or to give themselves sufficient room to get around you without causing you a problem as well. So there's a lot to be doing when you're out on the road, and all of those things are just as important if you're riding with a group of riders, because always there's somebody at the front, there's somebody at the back. You've got to work out what your position is in the group. If there's a lot of you and there's cars behind you, then car drivers can get a little bit frustrated sometimes and not always be thinking about the motorcyclists, their own interest in getting past you. So as I said, there's a lot to be thinking about when you're out on the road, and if you've had your bike put away over winter and you haven't ridden it for a while, now's a good time, because the weather's getting better and it's riding season, to be thinking about all those things. Be safe out on the road, ride safely, think about yourself, think about other riders, and be aware of all the other people on the road, and do your best to give yourself the best chance of surviving your ride, getting out where you want to go, coming home safely. That's all we want to do. So in this ride I headed out of Goulburn going west on what's called the Gurrundah road. There is a little village or settlement, I think would probably be better called Gurrundah, which is about, I think, 30 kilometres out of Goulburn. I didn't quite go that far. I went about 9 or 10 kilometres out of Goulburn, and then took a right-hand turn onto a road called Cooper's Lane. First, about 750 metres, maybe a K, is sealed, and then the road is dirt, or unsealed, from there to the intersection of the next road, and it's about 2.2 kilometres long. So I guess maybe 1.2 kilometres, a bit longer than that, is unsealed. And it's not the greatest road for a Spyder, because the Spyder is meant to be ridden on the highway. It's very stable with the two wheels on front, and I didn't have any concerns about safety or stability or anything, but it's just not the sort of road the Spyder's designed for. And one of the things that you're always cautioned about with the Spyders is that because they're belt driven, there's a possibility of stones being thrown up if you're riding on a dirt road and getting caught in the belt, and then the belt being damaged. Now fortunately none of that happened to me this time. I don't very often go on dirt roads, but I went on this road because, as I mentioned at the start of this video, I had run down this road earlier this week, and I'd made an edited version of that video for my running videos, and I just thought since I had run down, I would ride down it and you might get a better view of the scenery. Most of the land out there is farming land, not sure what, mostly sheep and cattle farms I think, although one of the places I was running, it may have been that road or another road, I saw some alpacas, so maybe there's some alpacas and goats being farmed out there as well. So I took that road, that is Cooper's Lane, as I said it's about 2.2 kilometres long, and it connects with another road called Range Road. And so I turned right there, and then I was travelling east back towards Goulburn. You'll see that in the next clip, where I headed back in towards Goulburn, and then I took another turn and went down another road that I've been moving, and I'll talk about all of that in the next video. So I just wanted to introduce what I was doing out riding the Spyder on a nice spring day in September. Talk about some of the things that are worth talking about in terms of rider safety and road safety, since we're now into the start of the riding season. And I'll say to everyone who's out on their bike, wherever you are, whatever state you're in, whatever country you're in, ride safely, enjoy your ride. Remember, it's not how fast you go or how big your bike is or how quickly you can go from one place to the other. It's about where you're going. It's the ride that you're going on that's always the most important part of the journey. And I hope you get to enjoy lots of rides over the spring, summer, and even into autumn of next year. And I'll talk to you again when I'm working on the next clip in this series. Enjoy the last few seconds of this video, and I'll talk to you again shortly.